Said shut the f*** up, I'm trying to record. All right.
This is Milana Janae Jackson, and you're listening to Jester Radio Network.
You just made the blooper reel.
Hey, this is Tony Valley.
And I'm David Gavry.
And we host a podcast called Jacking Off with Tony Valley, where every week we interview poker players and game runners about the ins and outs of the underground world of poker.
And we discuss strategy, philosophy, and other topics. You can listen to us on the Jester Radio Network every Thursday at 9 a.m. at jackkingoff.com, or you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play.
Hi, this is Alex Sakanikos from Bad Shorty, and you're listening to Essay Questions.
So, hello everyone, and welcome to this special introductory episode of Essay Questions, short reads, long talks. We're releasing this concurrently with our very first episode where we talk about an essay by Sam Harris. My name is Josh.
I'm Joe.
And we're here to tell you a little bit about why we conceived of such a project and kind of our approach to reading and talking about these essays and kind of what you can expect from season one. Joe, do you want to let us know how you came up with the idea for this podcast in the first place, since it was kind of your brainchild?
Well, what I really wanted originally was just kind of an excuse to have a conversation about kind of anything that felt like of consequence. And then somehow it seemed to present itself, if you just give yourself some sort of genesis for that conversation to occur, and what better way than by talking about a subject as approached by someone who is theoretically an intellectual or some semblance of an authority on a topic, and use that as a way to just go start a conversation, just let it go wherever it's going to go. And there was the added benefit of, I mentioned this in a couple of episodes, I think, where Josh is far more well-read than I. It forces me to read not only specific things that I think I should be reading, but just reading more generally to broaden my horizons intellectually. And it serves both of those purposes of allowing myself to continue my friendship with Josh, where we kind of talk about how upset we are with reality. But also force myself to read things I might otherwise not have.
Yes, and this was it was a precondition of continuing our friendship, is that we record every single conversation from now on.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm kidding, but some of these choices, I think, kind of make sense for a season one about essays, because some of them are like kind of seminal essays, like essential kind of essays of historical consequence. We've got people like Theodore Adorno in there. We've got Clement Greenberg and Dwight MacDonald. We've got George Orwell, of course. But other ones were kind of, if not odd choices, they were really selected because they were already in step with conversations that, Joe and I have been having probably since we were 18 or 19. And our interest in that topic was already there, and we just kind of chose an essay that seemed to, as Joe said, be a good genesis or starting point for a conversation. And then we kind of move through the essay and the author's unique perspective on that topic, but then kind of come out on the other end, really continuing a conversation that we have been having for a good decade and a half now, if not longer.
Absolutely. And a lot of these were, I think Josh just touched on, excuses to talk about things we were going to talk about anyway. Like, you're going to notice one of the reoccurring sub-themes of the first season here is we're going to talk about conspiracy theories several times. A couple of essays address that topic directly, and a couple don't, and we just kind of take the conversation in that direction. But these essays are generally going to reveal more and more just who we are, Josh and I, as individuals, and how the dynamic of our conversations, how they're going to take place. And I hope that you as a listener, you kind of relate to what we're talking about and you find something of your own to be able to bring to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And our approach to every essay is essentially, this is not a seminar. We're not this is not like a kind of correspondence course or something. Like, we're not approaching these as if we are experts. We are certainly not, kind of authority figures on any of the subjects that are raised by these essays. We have done like a minimum amount of like research into the essay and its author and its kind of historical context, but not to the point where it's it becomes a kind of book report. We try to do everything we needed to in terms of preparation while still keeping the conversation organic. Certainly take everything that we say with a grain of salt, because even as we go back and start to cut some of these episodes together, you're hearing them week by week, but most of them were recorded in August and September of 2017. Even when going back and listening to these, like, I definitely already disagree with some of the stuff I said. So this is not authoritative statements from on high. This is just us thinking out loud and kind of doing what we always have done, but just with a microphone in front of us.
Yeah, these are much more, I would describe these as informed or mildly informed conversations, much more than I would describe them as well-researched diatribes, which kind of brings up something I want to, where you, hopefully the listener, can participate if you so choose. I don't know how exactly we're going to do it. I'm assuming we'll set up some sort of email address. But if you like the things that we say, if you don't like the things that we say, if you just think something different about a topic, or if you want to suggest essays in the future that we discuss, the whole point of this is not simply so that Josh and I can talk, although if I'm being honest, that's almost exactly what it is. But ideally, it would be one where you can participate, where hopefully what we're saying allows you to think of things that we're not saying. And if you want to share that with us, we would love to do an episode every so often where we go back and revisit an older episode with listener notes and try to create much more of a interactive experience.
Yeah, it would be great to do like a kind of wrap up, conclusion to the season in the same way that we're trying to do like a brief overview of by way of introduction now, and we hope that the way that we approach these essays and the way that the way that we conduct these conversations show that we are within reason, like open to all opinions and perspectives, and that it's not about trying to sound smart. It's not about trying to one up the other person. It's not about trying to show off your erudition or your intellect, although I'm often guilty of that. But often what I'm saying is wrong. I'm just saying it very confidently. This is if you want to have a conversation where everyone's allowed to like really seem like they know what the fuck they're talking about, but maybe you step back afterwards like, actually I really don't. That's fine. That's why conversations are fun. It's like, it's not meant to be it's not meant to be a seminar. It's not meant to be like an exchange of authoritative declarations. It's meant to be more organic, and it's meant to be, you in trying to make an argument, even if or an analysis or make a point, whether you really believe it or not, and just kind of trying it on, you're figuring out what it is you really think. That's my experience of having these conversations, both in the podcast and in real life. Like, this is how you figure out what it is you really believe. It's by talking it through with someone and trying on different perspectives.
Absolutely. Just having these conversations, even when we weren't recording them, is something that is always, that's at the top of my list of things that I enjoy, or at least value doing with my time. I do want to give a brief overview of the season. This first season, we plan on each season being around 10 episodes, is kind of a scattershot collection. Josh primarily put together a list of essays that he's much more familiar with. And we each kind of chose ones that felt relevant to us, but to cover a breadth of issues. But thematically, there are themes that tie episodes together, and there are kind of episodes that piggyback off of one another. But our plans going forward, like we've already talked about how we're going to prep season 2, those are going to be much more one big topic that we're going to try to cover over the course of 10 different episodes with 10 different essays, all related to one overarching theme.
Some of these essays we kind of chose on the fly, because we thought that they were connected with something that was going on, during the time period where we recorded it, so they're very timely and they speak directly to something that either has happened in the past year or at least in the last 5 years, and they're more contemporary. Some of them, written 100 years ago, but honestly, whether they were written in the 1930s or whether they were written last year, that didn't really affect how relevant they were. A lot of the things that we were picking up on in, for instance, our discussion of H.L. Mencken's essay about the Scopes monkey trial, totally relevant to everything that's going on in American culture as regards religion and the connection between religion and politics today. So more recent did not equal more relevant necessarily.
Yeah, those are more interesting things learned from reading the historical essays, was just how prevalent and relevant things that were occurring back 50, 100 years ago are today, which calls into question either how prescient these authors were or just how ingrained human nature is into each one of us and how we're all just kind of playing out the same string generation to generation. Yeah,
so hopefully you will enjoy following us through our discussions and our kind of exploration of these different essays. There's going to be a link to the reading in every set of show notes. It's probably going to be best to read the essay before you listen to us talk about it, so you can at least kind of be following along in and like participating in the conversation psychologically. Some of these are relatively easy reads. Some of them are pretty dense, but I think they're all worth considering. And certainly there's much more to say about all of them than we do in an hour.
Yeah, of course. One of the biggest advantages, I think, as someone who might listen to this, it's not just, you get to hear what these two guys are kind of able to think in a little bit, but you're able to read something you probably otherwise wouldn't have read. I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just assuming, knowing myself, and then force yourself to, think about what reflect on what you've read and really confront what you think about these things. And that's what I would love this to be, is some varying degrees of an interactive intellectual experience, understanding, and just using these writings as a jumping off point.
Yeah, and in a culture that, without sounding too much like an old fogey, is dominated by very brief discussions by kind of quick posts, whether they're Twitter posts or whether they're like short posts on Reddit or some other forum. We've kind of lost the art of reading, and we've lost the benefit of like really taking a deep dive into a long form treatment of any of the topics that we're going to end up discussing. But it really is rewarding to sit down and read like a really in-depth exploration of any of these issues, whether it's something political or whether it has something to do with the merits of different art forms. If you haven't put yourself in that position of trying to engage with like a traditional essay, this is a good opportunity to do that in a place that is, again, this is a safe space for not knowing what the fuck you're talking about. We're all just trying to figure shit out, so it's fine.
Well, Josh is this is not necessarily a safe space. We're definitely going to judge each other and you. But I hope you guys enjoy what we've put together. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this first season, and we're hoping that this will grow into something that we can just tackle bigger and bigger topics and really get more and more in depth into what we want to talk about. And I hope you guys enjoy the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of a pilot season for us, so it's just onward and upward from here. So we hope you guys appreciate it and enjoy it, and any feedback that you have is going to be much appreciated. So enjoy episode 1 where we talk about Sam Harris, and enjoy this first season over the coming weeks.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.